Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Guys, in the world of global politics, few things grab headlines quite like a US president's overseas tour, especially when that president is Donald J. Trump. Brash, unapologetically bold, and always larger than life, Trump's first major foreign trip of his new term was no exception. This wasn't just a diplomacy, it was a spectacle. From gold plated halls and military flyovers to $400 million airplanes and opulent gifts, Trump's 4 day trip of Middle East was a masterclass in showmanship, ego, and transactional politics. But beneath the lavish ceremonies and grandiose optics, there were signals about policy priorities and power. So today we are breaking down the five biggest takeaways from Trump's trip that both captivated and cornered the world. First, this trip wasn't just about the foreign relations. It was about the Trump's reflection in the mirror of global adoration. From the moment he touched down, he was treated not like a visiting head of state, but like royalty. He rode in motorcycles lined with cheering dignitaries, walked through gold trimmed palaces, and was escorted by the military jets. There were camels, ceremonial dances, and luxury at every corner. Trump, a man known for his obsession with grandeur, golden furniture, and a dramatic flair, soaked in all in. For a leader who prizes royalty and optics above the nuance, this trip felt custom designed to flatter him. Leaders in the Gulf states seem to understand the Trump playbook, offer visual splendor, display respect, and sign deals, lots of deals. And in return, they got attention, praise, and influence. Second takeaway, while the headlines may have focused on Trump's red carpet treatment, the real centerpiece of the trip was business. A big business. The Gulf states opened their wallets and Trump opened America's arms industry. There were multi billion-dollar agreements, including Qatar's purchase of Boeing aircraft, Saudi investments in US military and medical research, and the UAE's plan to launch an artificial intelligence campus with American support. But one particular item stole the spotlight, a $400 million jet gifted by Qatar to serve a potential replacement for Air Force One. Trump called it a beautiful gesture and said he would be foolish to reject it. But that jet has caused a firestorm of controversy back home. Legal experts and even members of his own party warned that accepting such a gift could violate the Constitution's Emoluments clause, which bars US officials from accepting gifts from foreign governments. Yet for Trump, the jet symbolized something far more personal, which is power, prestige, and status. Even as Boeing works on new Air Force One models, Trump openly lamented flying on what he called an old Boeing and seemed genuinely enthralled by the idea of custom designed flying palace. Third was the jet wasn't the only thing raising eyebrows. Trump's action triggered alarm across the political spectrum, including from his fellow Republicans. Senate leaders publicly cautioned the prudence and legality of accepting a gift that's not just extravagant but also potentially compromise. Qatar, after all, is no ordinary ally. The region has a history of complex geopolitical ties, allegations of corruption, and security concerns. One senator even warned the Greeks had something like that a long time ago, a reference to the infamous Trojan horse. Another added colorfully, I trust Qatar like I trust a rest shop bathroom. Critics aren't just worried about the technicalities, they are worried about the perception. How does it look when the President of United States accepts a luxury aircraft worth hundreds of millions while advocating for budget cuts and economic back home? The optics of access in this case speak louder than any speech. Trump's tour signaled a deliberate pivot in America's global posture. Unlike past presidents who use overseas visits to encourage democracy, raise human rights concerns, or express solidarity with oppressed voices, Trump steered clear of such messages. Not once he did publicly mention freedom of the press, fair elections, or women's rights. Instead, he praised the region's progress in commerce, infrastructure, and national identity. He told his host that the Middle East gleaming cities weren't built by the American aid or liberal interventions, but by their own people pursuing their own visions. That statement, while flattering to the audience, effectively distanced America from its long standing role as a moral guide on the global stage. There was no talk of Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post journalist brutally murdered in Saudi embassy. No mention of Qatar's exploitation of migrant workers during World Cup construction. No concern for jailed dissidents or stifled protest. For Trump, this trip wasn't about the principles, it was about the partnerships. Business came first, politics came later, if at all. And finally, while this trip revolved around trade and symbolism, it did offer brief, if subtle, glimpses into Trump's geopolitical mindset. In a surprise move, he lifted decades old sanction against Syria, shaking hands with Ahmed El Shara, a controversial figure once linked to terrorist organizations. The embrace of Al Shara stunned observers, not just for what it said about Trump's evolving view of Syria, but for it suggested about his willingness to ignore past offenses in favor of new alliances. He called Syria's new leaders strong, tough, and even attractive, nothing that had a very strong past and a real shot of holding it together. This kind of personal praise, especially for a leader once considered America's enemy, shows Trump's preference for judging individuals not by ideology or human rights record, but by strength, charisma, and the loyalty. He also commented briefly on Gaza, Iran, and Ukraine, but offered no clear policy direction, only vague suggestions that things will work out under his leadership. So, guys, what can we conclude from Trump's 4 day tour of the Middle East? So it was part diplomacy, part business trip, and all Trump. The gold, the gifts, the deals. It was a theater of power designed to cater to his ego and his brand. But it also raised critical questions about America's future on the world stage. And we still a beacon of democratic values, or are we becoming just another player in a world driven by profit, perception, and power? Only time will tell how this trip will shape Trump's legacy and America's place in the world. But one thing is for certain, this was no ordinary state visit. It was a performance and the world was watching. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like, comment with your thoughts on the trip, and subscribe for more deep dive political analysis. Until next time, stay informed and stay curious, and I will see you in the next video.